They expected me to yell, break something, maybe even threaten legal action. But I didn't. My name is Ari Callahan. I'm 49 years old. I live in Laramie, Wyoming, and I've been a senior aviation mechanic for nearly 30 years, 20 of those at Skyhaven Regional. That morning, I walked into the hangar knowing it was coming. I could feel it in the way people avoided my eyes. The hushed conversation near the break room. The new supervisor, that smug little weasel named Trent Dobson, trying way too hard to act like it was just another Tuesday. He called me into the office. Ari, have a seat. I didn't. I crossed my arms and waited. This isn't easy, he began. But after careful consideration, we've decided to end your employment effective immediately. Because I flagged the Falcon 300's gear actuator, I said, and told the charter pilot not to fly it until the secondary hydraulic line was replaced. Trent blinked like a deer in headlights. That's not the reason. There've been ongoing concerns about your behavior. You've created a hostile work environment. I looked around his spotless little office. The man hadn't touched a wrench in his life. Do I get a box, or should I bring my own? He stared at me, probably waiting for an outburst. But I just nodded once, calm as still water. You know that gear strut's going to fail, right? Could be today. Could be next month. He cleared his throat. Ari, we're not here to. I've said my piece. I turned to leave. As I stepped out, I saw the other guys pretending to work but clearly watching. Doug, Alan, even young Chris, 22, fresh out of school, still had grease under his fingernails from last night's inspection. I gave them a quiet nod. Not goodbye. More like, pay attention. Doug met my eyes. He knew. He's been around long enough to recognize when something's wrong, and it's not just a paperwork issue. As I reached the locker room, I found a half-empty cardboard box with my name on it in Sharpie. Someone had packed up my gear. Not all of it. My torque wrench was missing. So were two of my precision calipers. I didn't say a word. I drove out of the parking lot without looking back. But in my gut, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. As I passed the runway, a Gulfstream taxied for takeoff. For a second, I thought about that faulty landing gear. Then I gripped the wheel harder and whispered to myself, this isn't over. Back then, Skyhaven felt like home. Not glamorous, not rich, but solid. The kind of place where you could speak your mind, where safety came first, and where management still knew your name. That changed 3 years ago. They brought in new investors from Denver, folks who'd never held a rivet gun but had strong feelings about efficiency. Then came Trent, fresh out of a big city maintenance company where he apparently streamlined processes. His words, not mine. The first thing to go were the pre-shift safety briefings. Used to be we'd meet every morning, talk through inspections, issues, flight schedules. Trent said it was a waste of time. You're professionals. You know your jobs. No need to hold your hand every morning. Next, they started pushing us to move faster. Skip double checks, shorten the sign-off process. I remember one time, I caught a cracked hydraulic seal on a Beechcraft King Air, tiny little split you'd never see unless you were looking for it. Trent wanted me to patch it and log it as non-urgent. I replaced the whole unit. He wasn't happy. Still, I stayed quiet. I'm not the whistleblower type, but I started keeping my own records. Photos. Notes. Even recorded a couple of conversations, like the time Trent told me, just log it clean. If it doesn't blow during takeoff, it doesn't matter. I never told anyone. Not even Maura. I grew up around planes. My dad flew cargo runs out of Casper for 30 years. He was all about checklists, redundancies, systems. He used to say, you don't get to gamble in this job. One shortcut and someone ends up dead. That voice stayed with me every time I picked up a wrench. The Falcon 300 incident was the last straw. I found corrosion near the left landing gear actuator, where the secondary hydraulic line meets the retraction cylinder. I flagged it, took photos, tagged the file, and marked the plane as grounded. 2 days later, it was cleared for flight. I checked the system, the maintenance log had been updated, but the part number hadn't changed. No record of repair. Just a signature and a timestamp. I brought it up with Trent. He gave me a speech about trusting the team and told me to drop it. I didn't. I went to the chief inspector, then HR. Nothing happened. That was a week before they fired me. Now I sit at my kitchen table, my notes spread out, pages of records, timestamped photos, audio files. I thought I was just venting, documenting. But now, looking at everything laid out like this, it's a trail, a map of a problem they wanted to bury. And I'm the only one who still knows where it leads. 2 days after they let me go, a courier dropped off a box at the house. Sloppy tape job. My name misspelled on the label. It was supposed to be my personal tools, the ones I brought from home. Tools I'd spent 20 years collecting. High-grade torque wrenches, micrometers, calibration blocks, even a German-made borescope I'd gotten on sale back in '09. Half of it was gone. I called HR. A lot of my tools are missing. This box is maybe 60% of what I left behind. Took them 2 days to respond. When they finally did, it was a flat email. Per policy, any items determined to be company property have been retained. You may dispute this through legal counsel if you wish. Company property? I bought those tools. Most of them had my initials etched into the steel. My borescope had a sticker on it from a fly-in trade show in Nebraska. Nobody at Skyhaven even knew how to use it. I tried calling again. Voicemail. Then the legal letter came. Certified envelope. Inside, a cease and desist. The language was pure corporate threat, accusing me of unauthorized retention of proprietary documents, creating a disruptive work environment, and my favorite, potential misappropriation of intellectual property. I stared at the letter for a long time. My hands didn't shake. Not anymore. I grabbed a notebook, flipped it open, and started writing. Every conversation, every missing tool, every lie in that letter. By the end of the day, I had 5 pages filled. Then I opened my laptop and started compiling a file I'd never planned to finish. if_complaint_draft.docs. Maura found me on the couch around midnight, still typing. She sat down beside me, no makeup, hair pulled back from work. She reached over, touched my wrist gently. You sure you want to go down this road? I nodded. They're going to come after you harder. You know that. You're not dealing with a little shop anymore. I know. Her eyes held mine. You won't get hired again. Not around here. Not in aviation, probably. I stared down at the draft file. Yeah, but I can't live with myself if I don't try. Maura didn't speak for a while. Then she said quietly, then I'm with you. God, I love that woman. The next day, I started scanning every page of my notes into PDFs, uploaded them to cloud storage. Labeled everything. Maintenance fraud, manipulated records, inspection cover-ups. I made backups. Triple backups. I created an anonymous tip submission to the FAA. Just a test run, to see what kind of response I'd get. And I started researching whistleblower protections. They wanted a quiet mechanic. Someone who'd nod and look the other way. Instead, they handed a clipboard to a man who's got nothing left to lose and more proof than they ever imagined. And I'm just getting started. It was a Wednesday evening when Leo Huang showed up at my door. Same old Leo, gray hoodie, mechanic's jeans, that tired look he always wore after second shift. He hadn't called, just knocked, holding a plastic grocery bag like he was dropping off leftovers. I let him in without a word. We sat at the kitchen table. Maura brought us coffee and left the room, sensing this wasn't casual. Leo didn't speak right away. He just reached into the bag and pulled out a small black flash drive. Set it on the table like it was radioactive. You're not crazy, he said finally. I know I'm not, I replied, but something about his voice made me sit up straighter. He looked around, even though we were alone. I've been holding on to this for a while. Figured it'd go bad eventually. Just didn't think it'd go this bad. What is it? Inspection reports. Maintenance logs. Internal memos. All fake. He nodded toward the drive. Everything from the last 8 months. I pulled the backups before they got scrubbed. I stared at him. You've had this the whole time? Leo looked down at his coffee. I was scared. And I got a mortgage now. Kids. I didn't judge him. Not for a second. What changed? They cleared that Cessna 560 for takeoff last Friday. Gear hadn't been tested. Battery was borderline red. You flagged that, right? I nodded. Trent signed it off himself. Then told the owner everything was clean. Do you know who that plane belongs to? I shook my head. City councilman from Cheyenne. Uses it to fly to Denver for meetings. He leaned in. Skyhaven's got contracts with multiple officials. They're pushing planes out the door whether they're safe or not. I blinked. You think they know? Leo hesitated. I think they don't want to know. I picked up the flash drive. If this is what you say it is. It is. His voice was tight. You'll find memos about inspection schedules being altered. Some show 2 different versions of the same report. There's even a PDF where Trent jokes about recycling signatures. It's bad, Ari. I stared at it like it could explode. You gotta be careful, Leo added. This thing could blow up the company. But it won't stop there. What do you mean? Skyhaven's expansion permit? The new hangar build? Fast track through City Hall. 3 inspections skipped entirely. Paperwork vanished. That's not just bad mechanics, man. That's corruption. I leaned back in my chair. The weight of it hit me hard. This wasn't just about a few shady repairs anymore. It was systemic, deep, and dangerous. I looked over at Leo. Why now? He shrugged. Because I don't want to read about a crash on the news and wonder if I could have stopped it. Neither did I. So I plugged the drive into my laptop and started looking. A week after Leo handed me the flash drive, Maura came home with a look I hadn't seen before, equal parts worry and resolve. She dropped her keys on the counter and said, "We need to talk." That's never how you want a conversation to start. I ran into Rachel Madison at the school, she said. She's on the city council's finance committee. I nodded. I knew the name. Small-town politics are just big enough to keep things dirty and just small enough for everyone to know everyone's business. She told me Skyhaven donated 20 grand last quarter to some campaign slush fund, Citizens for Regional Growth. 20 grand. I said. For what? Maura gave me a tight smile. To support economic development. But Rachel said off the record it was pay to play. Fast-tracking permits, keeping inspectors quiet. My jaw clenched. I wasn't surprised, just angry that I hadn't seen it sooner. The whole damn operation was rigged, top to bottom. That night, I sent the full dossier, Leo's files, my notes, the photos, everything to the FAA through their whistleblower portal. I attached an alias, Wrench_1. I didn't stop there. I reached out to a journalist I'd followed for years, Claudia Rivas from Aviation Today. She'd broken stories on maintenance fraud in California and the FAA audit scandal in Ohio. I sent her a short email. Subject line, Skyhaven Aviation. You're going to want this. She replied the next day, call me. Secure line. Within an hour, I was on the phone with her, talking through everything. She didn't interrupt much, just took notes and asked questions that showed she already knew how deep these stories could go. We're going to need documents. Names. Dates. I've got them all. She paused. This will get ugly. Then we're on the right track. The more people I contacted, the more doors started to close. I tried calling a buddy over at a charter outfit in Billings. He didn't pick up. Texted me later. Sorry, Ari. Can't be seen talking to you. It's not personal. I applied for a maintenance job in Colorado. Got no reply. Another shop down in Salt Lake told me they were going in a different direction. They didn't even ask for my certifications. Word was spreading. I was being blacklisted. I told Maura. She took a long breath, then said, then we go wider. What does that mean? We don't stop with Skyhaven. We make sure the people who let this happen are named too. The ones who shook hands and looked the other way. That night, I didn't sleep much. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. It started with a headline. Skyhaven Aviation under federal scrutiny amid whistleblower allegations. Claudia's article went live early Monday morning. By 10 a.m., FAA trucks were rolling onto the tarmac. I wasn't there to see it, but Leo called me as soon as they showed up. They've got 6 inspectors on site. Unmarked vehicles. 2 guys in suits. And they're pulling records like mad. I could hear the wind in the background as he stepped outside for a smoke. His voice was low, almost stunned. You should see Trent's face, man. He looks like someone kicked his dog. By noon, half the mechanics had stopped working. Some just walked out. Others gathered near the fence, watching as the inspectors opened up aircraft panels, ran serial numbers, took photos. Word was, one of the Gulfstreams got grounded on the spot. Then came the first domino. Tony Chavez, one of the line mechanics, quit mid-shift, dropped his badge and walked straight off the property. Then Doug. Then 2 more. By the end of the day, Skyhaven had 6 open maintenance positions and 0 plausible deniability. I watched all of it unfold online. Photos posted by ramp workers, blurry videos shared in group chats, rumors flying through the aviation forums. The FAA wasn't just checking paperwork. They were interviewing employees, checking parts inventory against purchase records, even reviewing internal Slack messages. I got a call from Claudia around 3 p.m. They tried to spin it, she said. Skyhaven PR sent out a statement blaming rogue employees and clerical missteps. Claimed everything was exaggerated by a disgruntled former worker. I laughed. Let me guess. Me. Exactly. But then a mechanic, one of yours, I think, went on the record. Gave them a quote that burned their whole statement to the ground. What did he say? She cleared her throat and read it. If Ari Callahan's disgruntled, it's because he tried to save lives and got fired for it. We've been flying blind, and everyone knew it. I didn't say anything for a second. Just let it sink in. Claudia said softly, you made them look. And now, they can't unsee it. That night, I sat on the porch with a beer in hand, watching the sun drop below the horizon. Skyhaven's official account hadn't tweeted all day, and I couldn't help smiling. Not a joyful smile, something deeper. Sharper. Like justice taking its first breath.